meantime, the Virginia small businesses have been absolutely eviscerated. I've talked to so many in the past 2 weeks, people crying me on the phone that they're losing their businesses. I mean, it's just horrible what is happening. Pete Snyder has stepped up to the plate. He's been on our show, as you know, many, many times, former candidate for Lieutenant Governor 2013. Pete also has started the Virginia 30-Day Fund. Go to virginia30dayfund.com. It's been extremely popular. They're raising money to give $3,000 per small business that qualifies. You have to have over 3 employees. Do a video. Go to va30dayfund.com. Pete has funded now about 150 businesses or so, and it's been a godsend to a lot of people. Pete, great to have you with us, man.
Hey, Johnny, thank you so much for having me on this morning for an update. And look, I appreciate the kind words. This is not just a one-man band. In fact, it's much larger. Burson Snyder has been is the co-founder here, and we've had so many different people, from Todd Stottlemyre to Bobby Kilberg to former Commerce and Trade Secretary Jim Chang to Sharon and Senator Chap Peterson. And I'm actually also really thrilled this morning today to announce that Mark and Suzanne Obenchain have not only generously contributed to the Virginia 30-Day Fund, but they're also joining our advisory board. So they've been just terrific and are helping us identify at-need businesses in the valley where they are. And, you know, it's been a truly team effort. And, John, it's starting to become a movement. Last Friday, I participated in a Zoom press conference in Macon, Georgia, because folks saw what we were doing here in Virginia, and a bunch of entrepreneurs started a Macon 30-Day Fund.
I love it.
And within day one, they raised $100,000 for their community. This coming week, we're going to be having PA 30-Day Fund come online. Same thing, a handful of entrepreneurs in Pennsylvania saw the success that we were having in helping small business in Virginia. And they want to do it in their state. And that's why we open source this. Everything we do, from our model to our website to our scoring mechanism for evaluating businesses, we are letting everyone rip and roll with it. We just want to help as many small businesses as we can in the Commonwealth and now across the country.
I love what you're doing, Pete, and it's made such a difference. Let's get back to Virginia. We had one of your companies on Friday, Rappahannock Oyster Company, that said your $3,000 that he got from your fund, the money you've raised, was a godsend to them. Tell us about right now, just give us an update. How much money have you been able to raise, and how many companies so far you've been able to fund?
Sure, Johnny. In a couple quick days, we were able to raise north of $400,000.
Wow.
And that's growing, and that's been remarkable, and we're very happy about that. That said, we got to keep fundraising every single day to keep up with the demand out there. We have, by this morning, will have funded over 80 businesses across the Commonwealth. So that's not only we receive their application, we process it, we accept them, and we actually have wires hitting bank accounts right away. So this is something that, within our first 2 days, we funded 30 different businesses. So we are nimble, we are fast, and so far we've been effective. And, John, it's interesting. You mentioned Rappahannock Oysters. We had Travis Croxton on. You were kind enough to do that on Friday. So he could tell his story. Many Virginians know about Rappahannock Oysters. They are a great home state success story. They have blown up across the nation. They have restaurants in everywhere from Los Angeles to Charleston to 2 in Washington, D.C., to Richmond and beyond. And they started just revamping their 100-year-old oyster farm that's been in the family, and they were doing direct mail orders and online orders back in the early aughts. Then they decided to get in the restaurant industry to create their own demand. Very, very smart move. And they were doing beautifully until this thing hit, which is just, as you know, absolutely cripples the restaurant industry. So as Travis said to you and also to me, Pete, we had to get back to our roots. So this guy went from being CEO to actually culling the oysters, putting them in packages, putting them on UPS or FedEx. So he told me, and they have a big company. He said, Pete, the $3,000 that Virginia 30-Day Fund and the generous donors are providing them is allowing him to hire someone to actually deal with these mail orders. so they could keep their business alive. So it's really making a difference in small and sometimes large ways. But just over the weekend, we were able to fund a garage, a custom car and auto body shop in Loudoun County called Three Pedals. Really cool stuff. An asparagus farm, of all things, in Fredericksburg called Sneed's Asparagus. And then also a 100-year-old jewelry store on Main Street in Abingdon called Greer Jewelry. They've been a fixture of the community out there in Southwest Virginia for over 100 years. And the very kind owner, Susie Buckner, told me that they have an employee that has worked in their shop for 57 years. And the funding we're providing is allowing them to keep that going, so we don't break that Iron Man streak that they have out there.
Unbelievable.
So those are just kind of the small ways that we're throwing a lifeline to businesses that are struggling out there, John. The carnage and the pain is deeper than I ever imagined when Burson and I and our friends started this effort.
Well, and the other thing, Pete, is when you talk to business owners around Virginia like I have, and they're crying to you on the phone, I mean, your heart goes out. And as you know, I went through this in 2008, so I'm quite familiar what it can do to a family, a business, your income, kids in college. I mean, I had somebody telling me the other day that, for the first time, and these are real stories. He owns a small business. He does painting, like he comes in and paints your home. Well, that's been shut down, so people can't come in to buy the paint. So he's struggling, and he said, I've been divorced. I got 3 children. I missed my child support payment in April for the first time ever, which when you miss your child support payment, well, that puts the kids at risk. That puts the wife at risk. This thing is just rolling down. This is just so critical for people. That's why I love what you're doing. You really need to get a couple times a week on some of the business owners you have in Virginia you've been able to engage and fund and get their stories like we did with Croxton.
Well, look, John, I know our business owners would love to join you. They'd love to tell their story. And, in fact, just your shout out about Rappahannock and your audience, you really, truly have a community here at the John Fredericks Radio Show, and your audience is powerful. Travis texted me later in the day on Friday and said, hey, look, we got a handful of orders that came in since I did the show. Like, this is really making a difference. So, I really appreciate that. We'd love to have some people on to tell their stories. This morning we're going to be funding a truck stop in Harrisonburg and also a tobacco shop right downtown on Main Street in Harrisonburg.
So they made tobacco shops. They made tobacco shops close.
This is a guy who's struggling. So he has it vaguely open, but he is, on life support. It's a veteran-owned business. He's been at it for 16 years.
Right.
I'm hoping, we're going to be talking a little bit more with him later on today. I'm hoping he has some delivery or online capabilities, because I'd like nothing more than for you, John, and for Virginia 30 Day. We'll use social media, we'll use email blasts, to talk about his story, and hopefully get people who like cigars, which I know a lot of folks in your audience do. I certainly do, to buy from this guy and help him out. And that's what we need to do. Continue to pay it forward. And John, what you just mentioned about kind of the trickle down effect of this is the very reason why Virginia 30 Day is in existence. I talked to one of our advisory board members, Todd Stoudemire, serial CEO and entrepreneur, used to run Inova Hospital in Fairfax. And I asked him, he has a global company, 5,000 employees. And when this thing was just a germ of an idea, I said, Todd, what are you doing and what are you focused on? This is in like week 1 of this pandemic. He said, Pete, I'm just focused on my people. I'm just focused on keeping every single one on the payroll. And I said, well, why is that? A lot of people are tightening belts, and I understand, Todd, you have a big heart. I'd like to believe I have a big heart. It's the right thing to do, but why are you doing, tell me the business reason. He said, it's a trickle up and trickle down, impact. I know that my business, in order for it to survive, we need people to pay us. And in order for people to pay us, clients to pay us, we need people to do the work.
Right.
And if we don't have people to do it's a vicious cycle.
Vicious cycle. That's horrible.
I said, that's what we need to be doing. anything we can to give a lifeline for these folks to hang on until the federal cavalry gets here. And, that's another thing. Look, the public sector is doing what they can do. It's not always pretty, right? But they're doing what they can do. And that is pumping, $2 trillion plus back into our economy.
Right.
It's just that they're an aircraft carrier. It takes them a while for it to actually work and hit.
Right.
And that's not enough time for these small businesses. Most small businesses only have 2 weeks plus or 2 weeks or less of cash reserves, and they will die if they have to wait for 5 weeks, 6 weeks until federal dollars hit their bank account.
Well, that's why what you're doing
bridge
is so critical and having such an impact. Also gives people hope, that there's people that care about them. That's the other thing with it. With Pete Snyder, he has started, along with his wife, Burson, VA 30-Day Fund. Go to va30dayfund.com. You can contribute there up to $3,000 per small business in Virginia. There's an application process, but they need the funding in order to continue. He and Burson put $100,000 in of their own money to stake it. Now they've raised about another $300,000. Chap Peterson in, state senator from Fairfax, also Mark Obenshain in. I'm going to try to get him on our show this week. And thanks for Suzanne and Mark Obenshain for doing that, and so many other people who have contributed in. Peter, got a text here from my wife, Ann, tuned into our show. She says, we need to back this in any way that we can, and tell Pete that we want to help by contributing ads every day to promote the VA 30-Day Fund. We don't have the dollars, but we do have the ads. And so maybe we can try to drive business that way, and tell Pete that I'll sign off on that today.
Oh, Johnny, seriously. Oh, wow, the Fraulein. That's amazing. That's going to really help our folks.
Come up with some ads and see if we can get this to help, because you need donations. I mean, that's the thing. You need to get the word out so people can apply, but then you also need to get donations in, and anything that anybody can contribute, 10, 15, 25, or $50. I mean, it adds up, and you're going to be helping save a small business. And with Pete's Fund, va30dayfund.com, there's no administrative costs. There's no salaries or admin costs.
There's zero, John.
Zero.
I appreciate you mentioning that. We are having a zero overhead organization. Again, we're not supposed to be around for a long period of time. That's why it's called the Virginia 30-Day Fund. I hope that we're not here in 40 and 30. I think we're going to have to be here past 30 days, but I hope after 45 days, if things are working with our government, we shouldn't be here. So given that it's a quick sprint, we want zero overhead whatsoever. There's a volunteer organization and seems to be running well. We've been effective so far. But, John, driving business, it's one thing for us to provide $3,000 of a forgivable loan to get people over the hump, or keep people on salary, or on pay the rent, or pay employees health care. But you and Ann, using your platform to help drive business their way, will be invaluable. It truly will, and it's such a generous and unexpected thing that y'all are doing. So I really, really appreciate that. But yeah, we need to keep on raising the. We've done a good job so far, I think. If you told me at the beginning of this, wow, you'd be able to fund 80 small businesses across the Commonwealth, I would have said, wow, that's amazing. The downside is, Johnny, the pain and destruction out there is so bad, and it's getting worse. As I sit with you, we're going to cross, and probably in the next 20 minutes, we're right in on the cusp of it, but we're going to cross 1,300 applications from small businesses in need that want and need our funding. That is 10 times, 11 times our current capacity. So I need to keep on hustling. Our team needs to keep on hustling out there. And we really need your listeners to keep on giving to va30dayfund.com. Anything that they need or anything that they can do would be appreciated by us, and it will go straight into the pockets of small businesses in the Commonwealth. One cool thing, Johnny, we funded a company in Northern Virginia called DMV Tees. It's a T-shirt company that does screen prints for the school systems, athletic teams, your softball league, and they had a really good, nice business going. And of course, with schools suspended and no sports and no office softball leagues happening out there, their business is in the tank. So we funded them and kept their 5 employees on the payroll, and they designed a VA 30-day fund T-shirt on Friday and put it up on Twitter.
I love it.
Just out of the goodness of their heart. So we are going to have a bunch of those printed at no cost to the fund, because we had a pro bono donation go to that, and we're going to be selling them for 30 is a big thing for us. So for $30 on our website, it's going to come up this coming week. So maybe that's something that your listeners would like. We don't have them there yet, but I believe by tomorrow or the next day we will. And for $30, you could pitch in. All that goes straight to small businesses across Virginia, and you get a cool, sunny T-shirt out of it. So anyway, that's something to watch out for.
All right, go to Virginia, va30dayfund.com, va30dayfund.com. Pete, thanks for having us on. Thanks for being with us. Send us an ad. I'll send you something over after I get off the air, so we'll get that going. And anybody that can donate, go to va30dayfund.com. Pete, when do you think this governor's going to open the Commonwealth back up for business?
I simply don't know, John. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but I will say that for the first time in, I don't know, decades for me, I don't have the best sense of exactly what is happening on the national front and, in the Commonwealth on kind of the day-to-day of the politics and policies and stuff like that. Personally, I've been so down in the weeds of just trying to do everything we can to help more businesses. So, I keep up with some of what's happening, obviously with the crunch on PPP and SBA and running out of money. That's certainly something that's front and center on our radar. Every single day, small business owners ask the same question. Hey, do you all have any insight on what's going to happen or what's not? And, simple answer, John, is I don't know. But what I also don't know is, it's not only when, quote unquote, people are allowed to go back to work and we say we're open, but it's what is going to happen with human behavior that's going to dictate a lot of this too. Because you can open up and say, hey, look, you can go to restaurants, but John, I'm not optimistic about how many people are going to come flooding in the doors to hang out with another 50, 100, 200 people.
I'm a lot more optimistic than you are. I think this great social experiment that's been done to strip you of your liberties and your rights. Now people are starting to rise up. There's protests going on all over the place. People know now that all the modeling is wrong. None of the things they told us is accurate. And
hey, Johnny, let me say to that. Look, I agree with you on the civil liberties front. I agree with you that you can't have government just dictating and stripping us of our religious liberties, of our civil liberties, and that there is a massive backlash happening there. But what I'm talking about is just on the economic front.
Right.
Of it's fine, just like the government can say X, and it doesn't mean that people are going to do it.
Right. No, I think
right?
what you're saying is restaurants reopen May 10th. And are people going to go? I mean, that's really it. I mean, people are going to make those decisions. My position is I want to make the decision, not the governor or some bureaucrat in Richmond. I got to go. John Fredericks Radio Network.